Could you give us just a little bit of your background as to how you got into production?
I went to university in Edinburgh. I studied English, literature and language, and then I went back to Belfast and I did a postgrad course, and then I saw an advertisement to join the Northern Ireland Tourist Board as to work in the press office. Now, this is a long time ago, but to join a tourist board for Northern Ireland during the Troubles was just a bit of an oxymoron, I have to say. So my job was looking after and facilitating press visits, which I really enjoyed. And during that, I actually came across some film crews, and I came across the job of a production assistant, which I didn't know what it was, but saw it on location and thought I'd be quite interested in doing that. I applied for a job in Ulster Television as a trainee production assistant, and that was fantastic because trainee is an important part of that. You know, there was formal training through filming on location, live studio, OB, so you ran the whole gamut really. Well, there's obviously more to it, but in terms of television production, it was quite a wide-ranging training course. And then I went freelance. I went freelance because we did a Channel 4, a massive big drama doc, which entailed 8 weeks filming in the States. And my job at this point was production assistant stroke script supervisor. I liked the job. I liked the script supervisor part of it. I went freelance. I moved to London for a while. I did a couple of films with Ken Loach as a script supervisor, which was just the most fantastic experience because of the way he works and the way he works with actors and his demeanour, and he's so intelligent and such a lovely person. So that was a huge, huge honour to get that work. And then I did drama, script supervisor for a while, and then moved into production management. I got a job for a Welsh language company for a sort of international music programme, which meant I didn't obviously have to have it. It wasn't in the medium of Welsh, it was multilingual. And that's where I started. So in terms of genres that I've worked on, I mean, Debbie, you mentioned drama. I've done not really an awful lot of drama. It's been quite small stuff, but it's mostly been factual documentaries. But I've done natural history. I've done arts, a lot of arts programs. I've done travel programs. Which is great actually, because this is another great part of this job. You know, if you're lucky enough to get a variety of genres to work on, because each time you work on a different genre, each single time you learn more disciplines, you know, whether it's visa applications, whether it's filming wildlife and, you know, working schedules which expand across a year, or if you're doing studio stuff, how different everything is. And it's all, as I say, grist to the mill.
That was a useful little coda to everything, so to show how you've actually moved around, if you like, within production department, but gained skills, honed skills as you've gone, because now you're a producer, head of production, line producer as well, on stuff which is at the moment BAFTA nominated.
But I think there's sometimes a lack of understanding that, you know, production management, there is a creative role there. I mean, if you're not in touch with the creatives and you don't know what's going on, you will not be able to budget properly, you'll not be able to schedule properly, you'll not be able to foresee issues, you know. And I know it might be a cliche, you know, people being creative and wanting this, that and the other, but you do need to bring production management skills, and it's hand in hand. They're not two separate things, you know.
So as a producer, obviously you're very much involved with coming up with the concept of your show. If it was a script, obviously you'd be developing the script for a fiction film, and you're developing the concept for a documentary. How would you differentiate that to, say, a head of production role or a line producer role on a project or a series of projects that you have in your company?
Well, a producer is more of an overarching role, and it is more of a sort of editorial, creative, and maybe stands back. I mean, there's sort of two different jobs. I mean, the production management is running the production, you know, which a producer wouldn't necessarily do hands-on. I suppose that's the biggest difference, really. Yes, they're different in that way. A producer would be more hands-off in the sort of the logistics and the running of the production, where a production manager is exactly that. They're running running the production in all the different aspects, whether it's budgeting first of all, crewing, contracting crews, scheduling, cash flowing, working on comm specs. For the best thing you can be as a production manager is to sort problems out before they happen. They're coming down the line, and you spot them coming down the line because your experience tells you this is going to be a problem down the line. But if you can stop it before it becomes too expensive or becomes undoable, then you're doing your job. The other thing you do is, and sometimes production managers or senior people who always say no to things. So a director will come in and say, I'd like this many days filming, and I would like this piece of kit, and I want to go there to do it, and I want to have that person involved. And because you're controlling the budget, it always feels like you're the person, or you possibly are the person who's stopping that happening. Well, that's not what production manager. I mean, production manager should be the person who's making it happen and saying, let's think of a way around this. And let's make it work.
What do you think are the essential skills you need to be a production person, be it a PM, shall we say, or a head of production or a producer? Are there any essential skills you think that are necessary?
I used to think that you had to be really, really numerate because of the budget, because you're looking after a budget. I don't know whether that's the case as much now. I mean, obviously you have to have some numeracy, but I think it is being flexible is really quite important, because if you look, this is very sort of, obvious in a way, but if you've got your budget and it says you've got allocated, how many days for filming, and you've got that type of equipment and that type of camera and so on and so forth, and inevitably somebody wants something different. And if you can only look at that and see, well, I've only got 15 days and they're asking for 20, so the answer is no. But you need to be able to adapt and be flexible and see where you can pull stuff together and use it in a way to facilitate something. So I think flexibility is really good. I think listening to people is really good. I suppose everyone always says that. I think you have to have, I do think you have to do sort of multi-skill, whatever that means, in various departments, as well. Knowing about how post-production works as well. People say this all the time, but the best trained people are the people who've come up through running and stuff and being on location and being on set, because they come against all sorts of issues, because they're present, they see the camera department, they see the lighting department, they hear stuff, they learn, they know how the whole thing works together.
And I've noticed you do a lot of travel programs and international ones. Do you personally deal with finding the crew in any other foreign country, or?
So we would do a mixture. We would use people from the UK and travel them, and then we pick up fixers, camera assistants, location people, whatever. If it just depends on where you're going, really, and what your budget can afford as well. Most recently for me, we would have taken people from the UK because there was that requirement, and they're people who've worked before as a team together, and then supplement people when we're in the whatever country we're in,
How do you go about dealing with stories which are unwritten, in effect? Things which may go one way, may go the other way, may develop, may spin out in one direction, and may not. If you've got any input on that, that'll be really useful. Thank you. If
we're filming a documentary, it is scripted, obviously, before they go away, and contributors are lined up in the stories to be told. But then the storytelling is done in the edit, really, because we can't, if we send people up, to film overseas, we've got a budget, we've got a number of days people can be away, and they're just going to make a virtue of it,
Do you find that you lock a budget, obviously, with the broadcaster when you start? Is there a little bit or a huge amount of bouncing between budget headings that you have to do to keep things on track?
Because you do a budget in good faith with the knowledge at the time, and then once prep starts and researchers come on board and APs come on board and they're finding different stories. It's not, in a drama you get your script to begin with, you know, and that's sort of, your parameters are locked in to a certain extent, aren't they? Whereas in documentary, you start, you do the budget to the best of your experience and knowledge and know what things might cost and what you probably need, knowing the sort of overall arc of the story. But once people get their hands on that, they change it in all sorts of ways. Do you know what I mean? And you just have to have that flexibility in your budget. You know, it's short-sightedness just to try and, you know, cream a lot of money off and present something which you could have afforded to make a bit better or spent more time on or whatever it would be, you know. But you do absolutely need to have that, know your budget inside out. The other thing to be really careful of, if you know, this is pure sort of production management stuff, is your commitments. Always put those in the budget, because people don't. And I mean, I remember in Time Team actually was a really good example. We were sitting in a massive big office and people were just sort of talking about stuff and things that they needed. And I just put it all down in the budget as a commitment, because I couldn't remember it all and it might change, but if you don't get it in, then you won't have it further down the line.
So I wish you all well, and thank you very much indeed for your time today. Great, okay. Much appreciated.
Take care.